Baylor wins convincingly, if you can call it that. This is Locked On Baylor post game. Finally.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Woo! Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor postgame. So sorry it's late. I thought I was looking bald in that cold open, so I put on a hat too. You wonder why I wear it every episode. I am your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Thank you for making this your first listen every day as the Bears come away with a 31-3 win over Air Force. So yeah, it looks like a snoozer. You win by 4 touchdowns. In fact, that's almost the exact score I predicted. I had it at 30-10. They win at 31-3. And I did take the under and hit on that. Anyway, but it really was a weird game because Baylor did not look convincing at all in the first half. In fact, it was far too close for comfort, to the point where absolutely I was having the thought of, are they going to lose this game? And if so, what are the ramifications for the head coach? I was having that thought. So let's start there. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I had it all the way. I didn't love it at halftime at all. I will say Baylor's offense was moving the ball in the first half. They were moving the ball. They just couldn't hang on to it. 3 turnovers, all 3 were fumbles in the first half. And that was the difference in the game. You know, I heard some of the guys post-game on the post-game show on ESPN Central Texas telling John Morris and JJ Joe, like, it should have been more. It should have been more. We let them off the hook. And they did. In fact, like the epitome of that first half is back-to-back drives, and I think it's almost back-to-back plays. Bryson Washington catches a pass, 25-yard reception, fumbles at the end. The next drive, like 2 plays in, Michael Trigg, 25-yard reception, fumble. And Baylor needed to force a fumble with like 12 seconds left in the half just to set up a field goal to give them a lead over Air Force at halftime. No, it did not look good. It did not look good. But I saw some people complaining about the play calling at halftime, and I didn't see that aspect of it. The one play I would say was not good was that 4th and 1 in the first half when they ended up going to Richard Reese. You knew you had Bryson Washington in the lineup. You know how physical he can be. Dawson Pendergrass is a more physical back. He had just fumbled, I think, the drive before, but like when you need a yard, I just don't know that I'm going to Richard Reese with a packed box and needing 1 yard. That's the only one that I was like, what was that? Because other than that, Baylor was moving the ball. And a lot of that is thanks to Sawyer Robertson. Don't need to go much further without talking about Sawyer Robertson. So he gets named the starter, or announced to us as the starter, about 2 hours before the game? I think that was reported. And I had heard some rumblings this week. I had heard it kind of secondhand, so I didn't want to stake anything into that, but that he was getting first team reps, getting practice time. And then we hear after he's announced as the starter that Quan Finn, who was seen on the sideline with a sling, had been in a sling all week. Foster Nicholas of the Baylor Lariat, who covers this team inside and out, was the one reporting that Quan Finn had been in a sling all week and that it was Sawyer's job all week. How did we not get any eyes on this kid in a sling? The starting quarterback for the football team. I don't know. I don't know how we didn't get eyes on that. The man must be taking remote classes. I don't know. So it sounded like Sawyer Robertson knew he was the guy, didn't need to pull a whatever that guy, Mason from San Francisco, didn't need to, fess up that he knew a couple days early. It sounded like that was the case. And I wish we could have heard from the quarterback afterwards. But when it wasn't going well and Baylor was turning the ball over, fumbling, not Sawyer Robertson fumbling, and when it was going well in the second half, his demeanor did not change. Sawyer was in control of this offense the whole time. And before even looking at the statistics of it all, if you just watch the game, that was a more comfortable offensive experience with Sawyer Robertson at quarterback. It looked much better. And he made some good throws. I wouldn't say there was anything where it was like, oh my gosh, look at that. Put it on a sixpence. Wasn't anything like that. But Air Force is a decent defense, man. I was ragging on them all week for their offense. Their defense is not bad at all. And Sawyer had some good throws against zone coverage in there. Actually, maybe his best throw of the night was one that he threaded the needle to Ashton Hawkins. And I think Hawkins might have saw it late and went right through his hands. It would have been a touchdown. He was orchestrating what should have been touchdown drives. He had just completed a pass to Josh Cameron at the 1, and it was called back for an ineligible man downfield, which I think was called on Michael Trigg, the tight end. So he must not have been covered up on that side. So that gets brought back, and then Dawson Pendergrass fumbles on the next play. So that should have been a touchdown drive. And he should have had a touchdown pass, which he doesn't end up getting one of those on the night. But it looked actually pretty similar to how it looked against West Virginia at the end of last year, where you're like, man, this kid is efficient. 18 to 24, which is a nice even 75%, 248 yards, no passing touchdowns, no picks, a rushing touchdown. I thought he looked so in control. And I haven't checked the comments yet, but I know these comments are coming, and they absolutely should be. Is this your quarterback going forward? Well, let's start here. I don't know that Quan Finn would even be ready to play next week. He wasn't a sling. You know what I mean? But even if all things were equal here, I think you'd have to go with Sawyer Robertson. They both practiced all winter camp, spring ball and fall camp with this offensive system, with this personnel, with most of this offensive line, with these weapons, and Quan Finn got 2 games of it. Sawyer looked more comfortable, more in control of the offense, and that is without doubt. Another caveat to this. This is the best defense we're going to see play Sawyer Robertson in 3 weeks. BYU, still kind of figuring them out. They had a nice game against SMU. Colorado, which is next week, not a good defense at all. And then Iowa State, first weekend in October. That would be a good defense in terms of putting that to the test, because to be fair to Quan Finn, he did play Utah, which is one of the best defenses in the conference. But no doubt, Sawyer Robertson looked like your guy. He didn't throw any hospital balls. He didn't throw any, you're like, ooh, that should have been intercepted. Not one. The other breakout star was Bryson Washington. And I have been waiting for Bryson Washington to get on the field, man. I talked about it this week on the show. I watched him play in high school, and Franklin, for those of you who don't know Texas high school football, or 3A football anyway, Franklin is a slot T. They're never going to pass if they don't have to. They are running it down your throat, and they rely on big bowling ball backs who can take a lot of hits, and that was Bryson Washington. He was their star guy. And I remember watching this kid in high school, and I'm thinking, he could play in the Big 12 right now with that body, that build. He was there. And he didn't get much shine at all last year. I think he was hurt for some of it. He was hurt in the beginning of this season. And Dave Aranda was saying last week, he's a guy we got to get out on the field. He's a star player. And, take it with a grain of salt, right? But he went out there, and from the jump, he was the star player that Dave Aranda was talking about. And I wish he didn't fumble, because if you take away that fumble, it is a flawless performance, I think, from Bryson Washington. But you see what I was saying? The speed, the power, the man hits the hole with aggression. He is weirdly kind of patient as well. There were a couple of those first handoffs that he got that he needed to be a little patient, and then he hits the hole. And he hits it better than anyone on this team. I'm sorry, he does. And you look at him and Dawson Pendergrass with their speed and power combination, those guys are the future of your running back room. Plus, you bring in some 4-stars in Caden Knighton and Michael Turner. That is a good place to be in. As far as the other running backs, Richard Reese did get that touchdown run. I think it was 28 yards. That was a nice play. I was happy for him because I was ready to be like, where are we with Richard Reese? But yeah, 28-yard touchdown run, which puts him to almost 6 yards a carry, 8 for 47. So you take away that, and it's 7 for 19. That's kind of what we've seen from Richard Reese this season, and that's what we saw most of this game tonight. I think that touchdown was his last carry, and that wouldn't be deemed as impressive. Dominick Richardson got 9 carries in the last 10 minutes of the game. I know that because he got his first carry 50 minutes into the game with a 31-3 lead. We're figuring out this pecking order, and Pendergrass did not have a day at all. It might have been a punishment thing after that fumble. He did have a 3rd and short conversion later in the game, but it was Bryson Washington. It was his show. 12 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Averaged almost 9 yards a carry. And that wasn't a fluke. He had a 34-yard rush in there, which is about, a third of what he did on the day, but it's only a third. It wasn't 70% of it like, it was with Richard Reese. Loved what you got out of Washington. Loved what you got out of Sawyer Robertson. And boy, were his teammates happy for him when he scored that touchdown and threw some dance moves in there. Those were the two performers for me on the Baylor side. Second and third best performers of the night, Sawyer Robertson, Bryson Washington, put them whatever order you want. But number one is undoubtedly the cat that made it onto the field and then somehow under the cement wall there and then up through the stairs and under the concourse. That to me was the star of the night. But the Bears get it done. It was weird. And it really comes down to that third quarter where they essentially forced 2 turnovers. One of them was a turnover on downs. The other was that weird fumble that went to review. Tizino came up with it. But 17-0 in that quarter and basically 2 turnovers forced. And you got good plays on special teams. You block a punt, which was funny that they scored without even getting a first down. They didn't get their first down until way later in the first. But the big thing for me was getting off the field. I knew it was going to be a big part of this game. It ended up being a big part of the first half. The numbers at halftime, the time of possession was 24:05 to 5:55. You can't only have the ball a sixth of the half. You just can't. And that was the big thing. They turned it over 3 times and they didn't have the ball ever. Aranda talked about rotating the defense throughout this week. I thought that was an interesting soundbite from him earlier in the week. They absolutely did that. Caleb Parker was in there. He obviously had the block punt as well, but played some linebacker, outside linebacker, Chateau Reed, DK Kalu, Reggie Bush. Corey Gordon got in there, got his first career interception on a ball that I had no idea what that play was from Air Force, who rolled out 3 different quarterbacks. But real quick on some of the stats here before we get into the comment section and wrap this thing up. It's weird to think that the Bears put up 478 yards of offense, and it's even weirder to see how much they closed that gap. 24:05 time of possession for Air Force at the half. They end up with only a little under 34 minutes. I thought they were going to break that mold that they got the first time when they played 2 years ago when they held it for 40 minutes. They did not. Bears cut that big time. They were down 19 minutes at the half, and they cut it to 8 minutes at the end. They held it for 26. And they ran about the same amount of plays, 64-62, Air Force in the lead on that. Pass yards, that's the difference. Air Force just cannot pass the ball 25 yards through the air. Baylor with 248. This is going to sound a little bit homerish, but you kept them under 200 yards of rushing. That's what you got to do against these service academy teams. Air Force in the past has been more than capable of rushing for more than that. Air Force also went 3 of their first 3 third down conversions, and they only finished 6 of 17. So big ups on this Baylor defense for that. And the Bears go 4 of 10 on third down. That's kind of the numbers I was looking for. And I said there's no way you can give up more than a touchdown to this team, or I think I said more than 10 points, and they didn't. That's 2 home games that they have not allowed a touchdown. By the way, I apologize to Scotty B, who I realized had it before me on Twitter, but I had to get that out there. I didn't notice till after that he had it before me. Baylor, with its first home FBS win since October 22nd of 2022. How about that? How about that? That's not a good stat, but it's done. It's over. You went there. You broke it, because that would have been really, really bad. How that could have been if that had happened, if they had lost. Let's start with Scotty B. He's talking about Drake Toll. He needs to shut up because he had Baylor losing to Air Force. Did he really? Come on, Drake. I still like Drake. I know some of you don't. Washington should be running back 1. Yes. And that will be the case. Again, I talked about this on Friday or Thursday. Like, I don't know how much we see. Like, we're still going to see a lot of rotation, but he showed it. And Dave Aranda said, like, this is a guy we need to have back on the field. So yeah, that would be, I think, the case. And Sawyer Robertson is at least your quarterback 1, for the future, the near future, I should say, because Finn's not going to be ready. Randy says they went with Finn because of his experience and the NIL money he got. Randy, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. And some people just want to throw out that because he's making a couple $100,000, that's why. I don't think that's the end all be all, but it certainly is a factor. I mean, this is a coaching staff that, or at least a head coach, because he replaced a good deal of the coaching staff this year, who is coaching for his job, which brings up a weird duality to this, because one of the reasons he kept his job was that he was going to hit the portal harder and he was going to recruit harder and hit NIL harder. And you brought in a top tier quarterback out of the transfer portal into Quan Finn. You paid him a lot of money, and he started a lot of games. So I think both of those things are true. And I'm glad that you mentioned that it was both and not just the NIL money. But the other part of that duality of, hey, I'm coaching for my job, is I'm coaching for my job. I have to go with the better guy. I have to go with whatever hot hand or who is more in control. And so that's why I'm thinking, even if Quan Finn was healthy, I think Sawyer will get that call next week. So that's a good point. There's a good point. Scotty, I did notice this on the way home. I wasn't paying attention too much to it. I saw that TCU was up 21-7 and UCF comes back to win 35-34. Now that's weird. A game with UCF that has a big time comeback in it, and the team that comes back, the road team, wins 35-34, and the home team misses a long field goal at the end that would have won the game. It sounds a lot like that Baylor UCF game last year. Anyway, man, a lot about the other Big 12 teams in here, and some about Jeff Grimes. How do we explain? Yeah, so Tyler Kent going with the same thing. By the way, thank you, Tyler. You're very active in the comment section typically. I'll go with what I was talking about with Randy's comment. It wasn't just the NIL money, I don't think, but absolutely it played a big role. I mean, that's college football, and that's one of the things that happens when you say, "Hey, this is the game now." NIL, it's not unlike what you see at some of the pro level, and it might be even worse because these colleges, some of them, Baylor being one, does not have the pockets of an NFL team, and they can't just release a guy during the season. They can't do that. So yeah, there will be some preferential treatment, I think, for NIL money. Christopher says, jumped from the number 14 team defense in the conference last year to number 4 so far. And I think that is the big story of this team. That is back-to-back second half shutouts. And you've really only seen them play poorly for one half through 3 games. So I'm a big believer in this defense. And I'm glad they were able to rotate guys because I don't know how much they will be able to right away in the conference schedule, and they go to altitude again next week. But I thought you saw some good play from the defensive line. Jackie Marshall, I thought was really good again. Keaton Thomas was really good again. Thomas and Matt Jones, man, that's a heck of a linebacking core. The other guy I was impressed with was Steve Linton, who I was not expecting a lot from. I kind of gave him some jabs when talking about him committing to Baylor because he had 3 sacks last year and they were all against Baylor at McLean Stadium. So I was like, what was he doing the other 11 games? But he has looked good so far this season. I thought he looked really good tonight, sealing that edge. Absolutely. And got in some pass rush as well. Trevin May, is that how you say it? It's probably Mai. Hawaiian. He has been excellent so far. I think he has been excellent. He and Jackie Marshall on that defensive line, on kind of the outside. And they've kind of made it happen in the middle. Cooper Lands is hurt. And you saw some more Linus Noel tonight. But by my count, you had 7 different guys line up, not in the 5 technique in the defensive line tonight. So that is key rotation. That's what Dave Aranda was talking about. But yeah, this defense is good against the run. It's good against the pass. There's not the same holes that this team had last year. I mean, how many times last year did we talk about the team breaking contain, freelancing? Like, that's not been the case this year. Trevor, who I believe highlighted the student section in game 1, student section looked pretty full. View from the section towards the Baylor side looked pretty full. Also enjoyed all the black. It was, I don't know. We're still going. We're still rolling. All that to say, yeah, the blackout looked really good. And I hope they do that again against TCU, which I think is the other game that they're wearing the anthracite uniforms, which also looked really good. I was here for it. I thought a lot of the students left at halftime, but then again, I heard it was like really bad out there. Obviously, it was really hot in the afternoon. Early Colorado prediction, Caleb, you're going to have to tune in this week because I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about this Colorado game coming up. I am really looking forward to that. Scotty B also says Ashton Hawkins needs to be shouted out. He does. I thought he made some great plays in the passing game. I thought he was terrific today, which is kind of what we expect from him. I did hear someone make the comments that our most explosive player is what we had to go get from Texas State. 4 catches, 81 yards. He's your leading yardage receiver on the day. Only Josh Cameron had more catches, and 59 yards after the catch. I love that. No drops. 4 catches, 4 targets. 5 targets. The other one was now that I think about it, they said no drops, but that might have been a drop in the end zone. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna wrap it up here because we're gonna talk a lot of quarterback this week, obviously, and we're gonna talk about it a lot on Monday, and then we're gonna start looking at Colorado. And my mouth is just watering thinking about that game and their homecoming and prime time Saturday night and that Colorado defense, which did hold Colorado State to 9 points. That's a Colorado State team with Armani Winfield at receiver that was shut out by UT. So take that for what it's worth. But I can't wait to break that down. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I get such great crowds from you guys in these live post games. So sorry I was late. I always misjudge that McLean traffic. It is a hellscape getting out of there. But I will be hopefully more mindful of that for the next home game. Those of you who are watching afterwards, didn't catch it live, drop your thoughts in the comments. That will shape up Monday's show as well. What you guys thought of this game. It wasn't always easy, but they did win by 4 touchdowns. They cover and hit the under, both what I went for. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave the comments, hit the notification bell to get notified every time that we are dropping on YouTube. We're also dropping wherever you get your podcast. Seriously, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We're trying to get to 3,000, and we're getting pretty close at that, which for Baylor, which is not a huge fan base, but you guys are great fans, a rabid fan base. That's a good number for us. So we're trying to get there. We're trying to get there soon. Tell your friends, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you Monday on your favorite show, Locked On 2-1 Baylor.